Well, good morning, all you beautiful humans. My name is Brian Van Ornum, and we are on chapter 2 of the High Road Leadership. So, um, who wants to start us off on what we gathered from this chapter? There's a lot of good points in here.
So I really liked, it's at the very beginning of the chapter. I'm listening to the audiobook, so I can't reference the page. But he says, you can't effectively lead people if you need people. And as a recovering people pleaser, that one really gave me pause, and I had to stop and think about it for a minute.
We'll talk more about that. What do you feel? What hit you in the feels with that?
Sorry, I've got the 2-year-old over here. I'm doing a disservice to people if I am in a position of leadership, like with our business team. If I'm just the people pleaser trying to not hurt feelings, not step on toes, it is not doing them any good. They're not growing, they're not learning. And believe it or not, I have more experience and more stuff to share with them that would help them grow if I would just take the time to make them a little uncomfortable, because I'm really just, it's not helping anybody, and it's doing them a disservice, and it's really harming them in essence.
So, Kara, I have a question for you. Let's dig in just a little deeper on that. Do you see that in friend land? Do you see that in business land? Do you see that in recruiting land? Where do you see that show up?
More so in business. The older I get, the less it shows up in my personal life. But more so in business with our company and with our team.
So I have a question for everybody, and love to dig in on this whole thing, but we're gonna get feedback from everybody. But thinking about this, Coach Russ is kind of famous for being the, like, in-your-face guy. He's softening with age, but he's kind of that guy that we all know. Like, if you need to have somebody come at you, he's a good guy to do that. Yes, everybody nod your head if you know that to be true. Stacy, I know you know that, right? So does that help the person? Is he doing it for his reasons, or is he doing it to help people? And when we play small on our side, and I'm thinking about recruiting, we're going to do the accelerator meeting for those that are into such things. We're going to do that meeting coming up in 45 minutes or whatever. And when we show up in a way that comes forward like that and says, hey, I'm all in, and I'm going to tell you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. First of all, Jim Rohn used to say all the time, I'm telling you this for 2 reasons. 1, I need to say it, and 2, you need to hear it.
So that's incredibly important, because you know what? If I have a friend and they are not willing to tell me the truth about myself to help me better myself, I can't really consider them my friend, because they're going to look at me. They're going to be willing to let me go through life and look stupid and mess up and not hold me to account. I don't need them in my life. I really need people that are willing to hold my feet to the top fire, as uncomfortable as it is. And I give personally, I give all y'all permission to do it. I might regret it tomorrow, but I'm saying that that's what I need. And we all kind of need that. We're not each other's benefit if we're just going to let you go through life and trip and fail and watch you fall down a hole and not say anything. That's my 2 cents.
Good stuff. Yeah, thanks, Kara, for bringing that up.
My business changed when I started holding myself accountable first with self-respect, as he talks self-worth in this chapter, and stop feeling like I was that inferiority complex. And then I started holding everybody else, because I kept telling in my head, I was like, how can I hold somebody that's a 1099 accountable? Because they could just walk away. And I stopped feeling that way. And I said, you know what? I value what I do. I value what we do as a team. And the people on this team responded immediately with more accountability, because that's exactly what they wanted, a leader to have to help them through these processes, even being a 1099.
What else,
do we get?
guys?
Sorry, yeah. What else do we get from the chapter, guys?
I remember the first time I heard John Maxwell speak, he spoke at a leadership conference, and he said, as a leader, you need to go back to your organization and tell your organization what your insecurities are. It's not like they don't already know. At least now you're being honest and saying, this is where my insecurities are. And at the beginning of this year, we learned from, I believe it was Larry Kindle, to write down your affirmations. And one of the affirmations I wrote down at the beginning of the year is, I am unoffendable and I have no insecurities based on my relationship with Jesus Christ. If you truly believe that, and if somebody says something different than what you believe, it will not offend you. But I wrote that as an affirmation. I'm not there yet because I do get offended, but I wrote that as an affirmation so that when I interact with people on a regular basis, that I will not be offended if they say something different than what I choose to believe.
Love it.
So when someone offends you in that regard, is it about them or is it about you?
It's about them.
Yep. That allows the water to roll off the back a lot easier.
But
one of the greatest things that I think someone gave me, and I never forgot it, I think I wrote it down. I said, when you go through life, remember when stuff happens, a lot of times it's not about you. And I've never forgotten that. That helps me tremendously because I take things a lot less personally than I used to.
Hey, clients, just to verify, or just to kind of clarify, I guess would be a better word. So the offender, if they're going to be offended, the offender, so it's really about their own take. Like, I can't change how they see things. They're in their little world. What I can change is how I feel about what they said. What I can know is my truth, right? So Mark, if he's offended, it's Mark allowing. If he's not offended, it's somebody else just experiencing Mark and saying what they say, and Mark gets to choose what he's going to do about it. Yeah, that's my experience of me, and I think you're right. I could really learn from that, or that's not my experience of me, but I'll take a look at it through your filter and see if there's anything there. But ultimately, it's my decision still, right? What else, guys?
I had really got kind of a profound takeaway on page 36. Interesting that I was kind of laughing talking about my governor sitting in his beanbag chair eating Cheetos, watching The Office yesterday. But the C.S. Lewis quote, there are no ordinary people. You never talk to, you're immortal. It's immortal, so you can joke with.
I can hardly hear you, Justin.
Hey, Justin, lean in, would you?
Yeah. So, can you hear me better now?
Yourself, please.
So this is going to be the
Hey,
No, someone else is on and they have the speaker on.
Yeah, Josie, your microphone's open.
oh.
Josie, your mic's open.
Okay, trying to get that 1 second.
Top center. If you're on a computer. Okay,
All right.
sorry, the line I think is tight now. Justin, lean in and say what you were saying.
So I was saying this C.S. Lewis quote that basically there are no mortals, and I never really thought about it like that. But if we are spiritual beings having a physical experience, I mean, everybody has that holy value, given to us, gifted to us, and I thought that was a really interesting way. I mean, it's kind of an obvious thing, but not hearing it that way before, I never regarded it that way before. So that was super powerful to me. And then the paragraph below it, I love these things where I'm learning and I like question at the same time, where he's talking about offering leadership from the top down. And it seems like, people will relay that in business, the money flow, it doesn't matter where they put it, that it'll flow up. But I think for wisdom, it needs to be top down. So those are the two things I really got out of the chapter.
So how do you apply that for moving forward, Justin?
I would think just in daily interactions with other people, especially those people that maybe I don't understand or don't get or don't see that in them, to stop and think like where is that in them, or and maybe not everybody, maybe is not for me to understand, but just I think like a conscious decision to look for that, or understanding that it's there.
I think one other thing that I took is where he talked about on page 37, express your belief in them. It's like kind of finding their superpower. Like everybody has some trait inside of them, some innate ability we may not see on the outside, but we have to dig a little bit deeper to find it. And utilizing those resources to pull something out of people, that's how I think that leadership can be, in my eyes. That's what I'm taking from what the conversation has been wrapped around just now.
And the equip piece, like I read it twice because I wasn't sure that I fully understood it. I mean, does that mean to teach, mentor, develop other people?
That's how I took it. As a leader, like let's say in what we do, and whether it's someone in your downline or someone on your team, equipping someone for me means training them at the highest level with no expectation.
I'll take, so equipping, I don't know if you guys just mentioned this because I just jumped in, but equipping is belief in action. When you invest in someone by teaching, training, coaching, or mentoring them, you put your time, money where your mouth is. So it means like you're doing what you're saying you're doing, and that's like that time that you're spending with that person is again is worth something, especially again having someone, for example, like the great Don House with us every day.
Thanks. That's nice.
One example I had yesterday with one of my business partners, she had a very sarcastic seller, and almost to the point of chauvinistic, like, oh, you have a Toyota 4Runner, that's cute. You may not be able to get up to my piece of land up in the mountains. That's cute. And she came back to me and told me this, and I said, well, she's like, do you think you can do this with me? And I said, I can be there with you, but that's not like equipping you for the situation. Like, it's helping empower that person to feel that they can handle that situation, and knowing that you have their back through it all, but they're the ones that can stand on their own to be able to help them. That's the piece that I really helped her get to, that piece of like, you know what? I don't need somebody else to do this with me, like in person, because I know the support that we have as a team can handle this whole situation. And that's what I took from this conversation right now, and just applying to what we had the conversation yesterday.
That's cool.
So how do you?
What did you say? What did you say to her?
Oh, okay.
And we went right down the DISC profile test, and I said, you have somebody that we had is a strong personality, a dominant personality, and the way to handle those type of people is you got to come prepared. You got, here's everything when you call them back. Here's my listing report. Here's what we're going to offer. Here's, we're going to do drone photography. Here's your listing valuation. Have everything planned out and ready to go for them. So then, they feel like, even on that phone call, that you did your homework, and you're not gonna put up with them trying to either belittle you or anything like that, that you came ready to go. And, because those people, those type of dominant personalities that are going to, be the sarcastic ones, if you handle them head on, you actually kind of disarm them a little bit more. So
Correct.
that's the conversation that we had with her. And she's like, I can handle this. I got this now.
Yeah.
So it's more of an empowerment than it is. That's what I took, where that equipping somebody. I gave her the tools to handle that personality. And basically I was just unlocking what she already had inside of her.
Great
That's
point,
awesome.
Ryan. What they fear, the D's, what they fear the most is when you're wasting their time. So if you come prepared with value information and then you have a response to what they're saying, they're like, oh, okay. It's almost like they're testing you. And if you pass that test, then that's it. They're almost with you. And they almost will say, okay, let's get this done. I'm in. And then they're actually, when they make the decision, they're in already. So they don't waste time. I have a client like that as well. And it's you have to recognize their pattern. And as soon as you do, it's easier to handle their ways. So
Right.
Great point.
Right.
Hey, client, you're coming in. I see you.
No, I love this. And thank you for that tool on immediately going back to this to figure out how to handle people correctly. I appreciate that. That was valuable to me. And I'm going to actually review DISC again and keep that at the front of my mind, because we're in a position doing what we do where it's all about people and and how we relate to them. That's how we make our money. If we handle people incorrectly, we don't make money. It's pretty simple. And I appreciate that tool set. Thank you.
Well,
I
Clint,
want
do you know what
sorry.
you are?
Yes, sir.
You know what you are in a DISC, because that's your first aha, and your first point of reference should be what I am, how I operate, how I see things, because I can already put you in a category, but I want to see if you're in that same, if you know it. So do you know what you are, possibly?
Last time I checked, that was DI.
I was going to say an ID, but I could be off on that.
I'll redo the test and see.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Good deal. Thank you.
May I offer some constructive feedback for client?
Always.
Client used the word, we use the DISC to handle people. We don't handle people. We use the DISC to communicate with people.
Nice.
Love that. Love that. Thank you. Nice. Okay. Thank you.
Plus, Mark, what Mark says, like, to connect. The connection is when you build that connection, the trust, all of a sudden the conversation flows. Like I forget, it was with Amanda Holmes, or that guy was talking about the CEO and been on the phone for an hour. And it's that connection that built that deeper relationship that eventually got to for them to make business. So it's never, I think we're never wasting our time if we're connecting and talking about whatever it is that we're chatting about, as long as we kind of bring it back to the conversation. And usually the way I like to do is, I don't want to waste your time, so I want to get back to move on subject, and it's just to get back on what we're referring to. Just a tip.
I wanna share. I already text on the chat the 4 principle of 1930. Frank Lloyd Wright. He's the most worldwide famous architecture, and his fundamental of 4 principle is exactly how we become a great leader, a high role leadership. It's all text in the chat, so y'all can read it. It's just really get to the foundation.
Yes, that was good stuff. Love is the virtue of the heart. Sincerity is the virtue of the mind. Courage is the virtue of the spirit. And decision is the virtue of the will.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that, Elizabeth.
Yeah, thank you.
By the way, I want to come back to that client just before we leave that and write this down. Sarcasm equals anger. So when you reach somebody who's sarcastic, their behavior is angry. So come from that perspective. What do I need? What do I know about them? Where are they right now? And how do I work from this elevated anger? And again, it could be just they're angry human, And that has to do with past and lots of stuff that you probably can't get into, but how do you bring that down and get them off that? How do you relate to them and bring them off that place of anger? It's not a useful place for them to go, and it certainly isn't useful for you to feed into it, nor for you to take that on and wear it. So what else? Digging in, chapter 2, or anything that popped up if you read chapter 1?
Well, this is Sherry on page 41. He talked about Mark, the CEO of one of the companies, and there was a guy, Fred, who unintentionally devalued people. He wasn't mean or nasty, just different. And that, the very 17-year-old sitting there, but my husband there, that people used to be in my way back probably 15 years ago. That I'd grown up with this chip on my shoulder, and we had talked about chip on our shoulders yesterday, but it point of actually detriment to me of trying to prove people wrong. And so people were just kind of in my way, which is so sad to think. But I went through a training that pointed that out to me, and it took a lot of work to go up and to really value people and to start those conversations and in the airports and at the grocery line and just get to know people and get excited about what's up with them. I had a conversation with a lady recently that she shows her dog, or Bashan dog, at all these shows, and I learned all kinds of things about showing dogs, and that's fun to get to know people. I would never know any of that stuff, but it's really interesting now, so that when I see one on the TV, someday, I know a few things about showing dogs. So it was a lot of work, but boy, it was so worth it, because now I have an appreciation for people, and I want to get to know them and get to know all these unique things that are going on. Like, there's careers out there that you're like, oh, I didn't know somebody had a job like trying to manufacture the wheels that go on that snowblower thing, So so that was what I thought of with that section.
Thanks, Sherry. What else, guys? Keep moving it.
What actions
over on page 42 in the paragraph about taking action? I guess it starts on page 39, but then he's bullet pointing different things. But taking action, there's a bullet list there of 5 things. Acknowledge them with kind words. Seek common ground by asking questions. Look for value in them and express it to them. In other words, we don't want it to be a secret to them. Find ways to add value to them, and then treat them with dignity. This is obviously a mindset and a determination that you've got set in your soul. And I really think that showing people that you value them is much more valuable than just telling them. Telling them helps, but showing them is a completely different level. And that is what you're really doing here, is you're treating them with dignity. You're actually doing stuff with them that shows your interest in them. It shows your love for them. It shows your care and concern for them. And I think this is really the part of the heart that's coming out here, is taking action. So thought that was pretty awesome.
Doug, I was going to ask the question, what actions can you take to let people know that you value them? And you just started off with a bullet. So we're on the same thing. And just to plus what Doug was saying right after that, says valuing people is an intentional act. So you have to be intentional about it, like in wanting to do that and acknowledge people. And you'd be surprised how little questions and acknowledging people, oh, I like this, I like that about you, will brighten people's day, because a lot of the times this is what we're doing. We're on the phone, and sometimes we are texting and busy. So just acknowledging someone at the grocery store, anywhere it is, thank you very much. It brightens people's days. It's that connection. And again, it goes with valuing everybody that you encounter. Just because they're opening the door or again, packing your groceries does not mean, even though Don does not know what that means, because apparently he does the Instacart. So he hasn't been to a grocery store, but usually when you go there's people working, Don. And actually not anymore, because they want you to check out by yourself, which I refuse to, but that's another subject. But it's about valuing everybody and having a conversation and just like acknowledging with good words and just what Doug said. So thank you, Doug, for bringing that up.
I love playing the game of looking at people's name tag and not letting them know I've done that, but then at the end, thank you, Sam. Or like the coffee shop I like to go to, I learn all their names and acknowledge them. Often people love hearing their name, and when you've taken the moment to figure that out from their name tag as you're walking away in the grocery store, it means a lot to people.
Do you know that when I walk into restaurants, almost always the server will come up. I'll say, what's your name? If they don't say it, I'll say, what's your name? And then I'll introduce my guest and myself and say, we're going to be here with you. And we're really excited to be served by you and excited to be here with you. And could you bring us, what do you want to drink? And always kind of set the stage for it and all that. But immediately, like, they're important to me and they're part of our world.
And do you think, I'm sorry, Doug, but do you think that builds a way stronger connection, which no other table has done that? Would you think that all of a sudden it's like, oh, I want to provide extra service for this person that showed me love and that feels that they care about me, and so that's a great point. Thank you for sharing that.
You know how many people I recruited out of restaurants? It's great talent. Great talent.
Names is huge. I mean, even as an educator, and I tell people right away, like, I'm not great with names, but I'll ask you a few times, like, what was your name again? And just acknowledge them by their name. Thank you for their time or their service. And then just reinforcing like who I am and that I value the connection that we're making.
Angela, you are great with names. You just haven't mastered it yet.
Yeah.
Booyah!
Thank you.
There you go, Mark.
Language,
Mark got that.
You're great with visuals, and names is one thing that you're still mastering. So you're on your way.
I have a brain training response to I don't remember names. And as I was working, I thought, I don't know, lie to myself. And it was before we really had a lot of this other training, but it was beginning to work. And I said, I tell people I'm remembering names much better than I used to. So let me get your name again. And so they appreciate that very much. And what else is it? It's nice to have new ways and new understanding here. As we all have been growing as realtors, remember your name. Somebody says from stage, remember their names, and you do this and you do that. But going through this book, Mastermind, is intentional, and it's a very safe place to have these conversations, which is an important thing for us to do. And if somebody doesn't feel safe, you need to let us know, because we don't know why you don't feel safe yet, and we want to learn. But because that's the point of it, being a safe place. But now I'm more intentional, and I know how to do what I want. And I, like I said, just more intentional than I've ever been before, because it does matter to me. It's not that it didn't matter to me before. I didn't know how to do some of those things. So thank you to all of you for this.
Hey, listen, we're at the bottom of the hour. Thanks, Jeanette. That was awesome. I love that. Great comment to go out on. Ryan, great job in carrying the load today. Thank you for stepping in as leader, as always. And a couple of things. One, for those that are involved in it, the accelerator group starts in 30 minutes, actually less than 30 minutes, 28 minutes for those that are involved. And I want to have you write down one last thing before we go, and it goes back to the empowerment and the superpower that was the beginning of this call, and that is, how do you know, I just did a video on this the other day, how do you know when people need encouragement? Question mark. Because they're alive.
Exactly.
Yeah, always.
That was my answer. They're breathing.
because they're breathing. So that's it, guys. Let's appreciate some people today. Make them feel better than they felt when they got up this morning. We have that much power.
Thank you, guys. Great day.
See y'all.
Appreciate you.
See you tomorrow.
Awesome
Chapter 3.
session today. Awesome session today. Y'all are fabulous. This was great today. Take care.